Hi ladies and gentlemen, it's Mrs. LaJoy here. Today we're going to look at how to convert from slope-intercept form into standard form. So what we've been doing in class with lines, we've been using slope-intercept form, and slope-intercept is the one that I've written on the board every single day, which is y equals mx plus b. So we call this slope intercept form. And why is that? Because we have our slope and our y-intercept, right? Remember that our m is our slope, our b is our y-intercept. So if I have, for example, this equation, y equals 1 over 2x plus 5. In this equation, this term right here, that's my m, this is my slope, and this is my y-intercept. That means that this line goes up by 1 over by 2. Up 1 over 2. And if we were to graph this line, we would see that it crosses the y-intercept at positive 5. So this is our slope-intercept form. So that's what we have been working with in class. Today I'm going to introduce you to another form, which is called standard form. So standard form looks like this: ax plus by equals c. So really all we have to do here, I'm going to write down the standard form. We have to learn and practice today how to move an equation from this form here into this form. Okay, so there are a couple rules that you have to know about standard form. So rules. So the first rule is that the a and b cannot be fractions. So this term and this term here, the ax and the by, cannot be fractions. So a and b cannot be fractions. Oops. So a and b cannot be fractions. The second rule is that a must be positive. So just like Mrs. LaJoy, a is happy, so it's positive. Okay, so what we want to do now is take a look at how to move this equation that I wrote here on the left into standard form. So I'm going to write this equation again, and I'm going to show you, I'm going to walk you through how we move it into standard form. So if we have y equals 1 over 2x plus 5, really what I want to do is move this term, this 1 over 2x, over to the other side, because my x and my y have to be on the left side. We know that from our form up here, right? Our x and our y are on this side, so we need to move this. So when I'm moving positive 1 over 2x to the other side, remember that what that means is I have to eliminate it from the side that it's on to move it over to the other side. And we talked about opposite operations. So if this is positive, the opposite of it is going to be able to take it away. If I have positive 1 over 2 and I take negative 1 over 2 from it, it turns into 0. It eliminates it. But what we kind of talked about in class is we can just think about this as moving it from one side to the other. When it passes this equals sign, it's like a little machine that changes the sign. Okay, so if I have a positive 1 over 2x here and I move it to the other side, it becomes a negative 1 over 2x. So I have y equals, whoops, not y equals, where's my eraser? Let's just scratch that out. So I have y minus 1 over 2x equals 5. I have that positive 5 over on the other side. All right, so now here's our problem. If we look up at the rules here, our first rule says a and b cannot be fractions. This is my b here, this y, and this is my a because it has the x, but it's this one here, this a, is a negative 1 over 2. So I need to get rid of this fraction. So remember that a fraction is kind of like division, right? It's 1 over 2. So the opposite operation to get rid of that fraction, the opposite operation is multiplication. So what I have to do is I have to multiply everything on this side by 2. But if I multiply everything on this side by 2, I have to multiply the other side by 2 as well. Whatever we do to one side of an equation, we have to do to the other. So this is going to look like 2 times y minus 1 over 2x, and then we have equals 5 times 2. So both sides have to be multiplied by 2. So I'm going to distribute this 2 into the bracket. So 2 times y is 2y. 2 times negative 1 over 2. Remember, when we multiply fractions, we multiply the top numbers and the bottom numbers straight across. So there's an imaginary 1 underneath this 2. So if I do 2 times negative 1, I get negative 2. And if I do 1 times 2, I get 2. On this side, 5 times 2 is 10. Remember, we can take this negative 2 over 2 and rewrite it. Those two 2's are just going to cancel each other out. They're going to become a 1. So what I need to do here is just rewrite this as 2y minus x equals 10. So we have these on the right side. They're on the correct side, but they're not in the right order. That a term has to go first. So I'm going to rewrite this up here. I have negative x plus 2y equals 10. Now, here's the other problem. Look at my rules again. The second rule says a must be positive. Is this positive? No, this is a negative x. So that a term is a negative 1. So how do I get rid of that negative 1? I need to make the a positive. Well, remember, this negative here is like negative 1 times x. So that's multiplication. The opposite operation of multiplication is division. So in order to get rid of that negative, I need to divide now everything by negative 1. So divide by negative 1, divide by negative 1. And remember, whatever I do to one side of an equation, I have to do to the other. So everything has to be divided by negative 1. So negative 1 divided by negative 1, I'm just left with x. Positive 2 divided by negative 1 is going to be a negative 2y. And positive 10 divided by negative 1 is a negative 10. So therefore, x minus 2y equals negative 10. So that's our answer. So this is standard form. Okay, so we have gone today from our original form, which was slope intercept form, into standard form. See? Pretty easy.